Hello, everybody. Welcome to the PHSC dual enrollment session. I'm going to give everybody just a couple of seconds here to get logged in. While we're waiting for everybody to join, I will introduce myself. My name is Laura Raposa. I'm the Assistant Dean of Accelerated Learning for PHSC. We do have 5 campuses, 3 in Pasco, and I work at the Porter campus at Wiregrass Ranch in Wesley Chapel. So I will go over just all of the dual enrollment basics, and then of course there'll be my contact information at the end, and any questions or anything I'll be happy to entertain as well. So I just wanted to briefly go over dual enrollment, about the program, what it is, and what students earn and the benefits of it. So dual enrollment is for secondary education students
Get over here and shut up.
based off the Florida statutes. Students as young as 6th to 8th grade can also take dual enrollment if they meet the prerequisite requirements. But these credits are earning dual credit. So they get high school credit and college credit at the same time. So the example that we use most often is English. So students who take English Composition 1 at PHSC get a full high school English credit, and then also 3 credits towards their Associates in Arts degree at PHSC. Dual enrollment is completely free. So there is no cost for the tuition, the fees, or the textbooks. There are some costs you may have to incur, let's say like calculators or goggles or specific course needs, but all the tuition, textbooks, and fees are covered by the state statute. So in order to qualify for dual enrollment, students have to be enrolled in 6th through 12th grade in a public, non-public, or home education program. They have to have an unweighted high school GPA of a 3.0, and they have to demonstrate college readiness. So the way that we demonstrate college readiness is college placement testing. So PHSC offers what we call the PERT placement test, PERT, but we also accept the SAT, the ACT, and the CLT. Students who are in the dual enrollment program must maintain that unweighted GPA in their high school, and they have to also maintain a 2.0 PHSC GPA for continued eligibility in the program. So the first step for students who are wishing to pursue dual enrollment is to work with their high school counselor or administrator. For the most part, each school has a dedicated person or person. Some of them do it by grade level. Some of them have somebody who does all dual enrollment. But that person at your high school will be your first contact. And then PHSC has a dedicated academic advisor assigned to each public high school. So the academic advisors and the high school counselors, administrators work hand in hand together to make sure that all of the students that are taking dual enrollment courses are on the right path, and they have the classes they need for both high school and college graduation requirements. So once students have met with their high school counselor, determined that they're eligible, the next step would be for them to apply to PHSC. So there is no fee for the application as well. When you do the application, it is a traditional PHSC application, but the enrollment type is dual enrollment. When that enrollment type is selected, then the fees are waived and the residency requirement is also waived. The one thing that I do like to say is to make sure that you check the date of birth and the social security number, because this will generate an official college transcript for the student. So we want to make sure that those are correct for when you transfer out, to make sure they align with the new college that you're going to be going to. We do have application deadlines. And I do see there are some questions in the chat. I will address those at the end if that's okay. So if you have specific questions, you can put them in the chat and then I'll address them at the end. And then we do have an application deadline for each semester. So coming up for the fall, students have to apply by July 15th in order to take dual enrollment classes. So after the application, the next step would be to take a placement test or provide placement tests if your student has already taken SAT, ACT, or CLT. Placement test scores are valid for 2 calendar years. In order to qualify for dual enrollment, at a bare minimum, you must test college level reading and writing. And so college level are the black arrows that you see. Those are your cut scores for English Composition 1 on reading and writing. So there's the PERT, the ACT, the CLT. The digital SAT has replaced the SAT, but that is less than 2 years ago. So there are some old SAT scores that are still valid. So you must test in there to qualify for dual enrollment. And then when I go to the math portion, students who do not have college level math test scores can take up to 12 credit hours of dual enrollment that do not require math as a prerequisite course. So we do consider this 114, the first black arrow, to be college level. That would qualify students for a course that we call intermediate algebra. Intermediate algebra is not a math class in your AA degree, but it will count as a college elective credit, and then students can go into the sequence of college algebra or finite math. Once students have their application, their test scores, then they want to do what we call a dynamic form or an online request form. This online request form will have all of the classes that students want to take for that particular semester. Students must complete this process every semester, and just doing this online request form does not mean that you're registered for the classes. That means that you're approved for the classes. So the students initiate the form. The parent or guardian will then also review and sign the form. Then the form goes to their high school counselor. The high school counselor verifies the GPA with their transcript upload and their test scores. And then they verify all of the classes and sign off on the classes. Finally, the courses go to the PHSC academic advisor. An academic advisor will review, approve, and the student will get an email saying these are the courses that you're approved to take. These are your dates for registration. So there are a couple of things that I always like to mention. Certain grade levels are restricted based off the number of classes they can take and the modality of classes. So students who are in 9th grade or lower can take 1 class per semester. That class must be at the high school campus location or offered online only. 9th grade and lower are not allowed on the PHSC campuses. 10th grade students can take 6 to 8 credits per semester. That typically is about 2 classes. And then in 11th and 12th grade, in the fall and the spring semester, the students can take up to 16 credit hours in the major semesters. A couple of questions that I normally get is about the grade level. The grade level is reported by the high school counselor on the transcript. So if your student is reported as a 9th grader, then they would go by that grade level. And then we do also have summer semesters, and our summer semesters are condensed. They are 10 weeks in length. So we do not allow 11th and 12th graders to take 16 credit hours in the summer. Rising seniors can take 8 credit hours, which is about 2 classes. And then rising juniors can take 7, which is also 2 classes. So then a lot of questions come out about what classes that you want to take. And it really varies. And this is where students really need to lean on their high school counselor and their academic advisor. What you see on the screen here are the general education requirements for the associates in arts degree. In the state of Florida, the bachelor's degree is 120 credits, and the associate's in arts degree is 60 credits. So the associate's in arts degree is the first half of any general bachelor's degree in the state of Florida. So it's broken down with your English, your math, your science, your fine arts, social and behavior sciences, And then a computer class is required as well. In addition to those 36 general education courses, there are 24 elective credits that students can take. We typically tell students to start with the general education courses because they're universally transferable to all of the degrees. When we get into the math and the sciences, depending on the major, that's when you kind of want to look at your future major too. But these are the classes that most of the students who are doing dual enrollment should be taking. And then other things to talk about with your student as you're considering dual enrollment is just other things they have going on in their life. Do they work? Do they have reliable transportation? Do they have to take care of siblings or anybody else in your family? Are they involved with sports, clubs? What about their high school classes? You know, the rigor and pace of the college courses. PHSC does not adjust any of the course content for dual enrollment students. They are considered a PHSC student. So they're getting the same textbook that college students are getting. And then also, like, this is your permanent record. If a student doesn't do well in a course, that is going to go with them when they're going to college, and certainly that can have long-term implications. And then a couple other things that I just like to mention as well. And I already said this, that each public and charter high school has an assigned PHSC academic advisor. They visit the high school campus. We do require our dual enrollment students to do an online orientation and an online readiness course prior to their classes starting, so they have a little bit of an idea about what to expect. But that, like I said, they are also PHSC students. So they have to follow all the same policies, procedures. And then we also have what we call FERPA. So FERPA is kind of like HIPAA for educators. So because they are college students, we will not release the information about your student to you without the student present. Excuse me. So this is my specific information, my direct email and phone line, and then also my address in Wesley Chapel. So I am going to go back through the chat here to kind of address some of those questions, and then we'll take it from there. So there's a question about, are dual enrollment credits accepted by any university in the USA, or is it only accepted by Florida? Dual enrollment credits are not universally accepted outside of Florida. Typically, if you're staying in Florida, dual enrollment is a safe bet, but when you go out of state, they have a whole new set of rules, and they can pick and choose what they're going to take, if they're going to take anything, and so on. There was a question about how late can we apply for fall courses. So the application deadline would be July 15th. So the registration for dual enrollment students, because they are not paying tuition, they do not get priority registration. And students who are taking dual enrollment do not get to register until August. So if you're looking to register in fall, then that would be the deadline. The registration for summer session is going to begin August 28th. I'm sorry, April, 2 months, April 28th for seniors, rising seniors, and then it'll be tiered down based off grade level after that. But if your student is looking to take dual enrollment in the summer semester, he or she needs to connect with their high school counselor right away. Dual enrollment students can take online classes, absolutely. If you are still working on parenting, can you take elective courses? So if a student has not passed the math portion of the PERT or any of the placement testing, they can take up to 12 credit hours total. So if they do that in one semester, then they would have to pass the math before they can register for any additional courses. We do have other options. If they're not taking they're taking the PERT multiple times, then please reach out to me, and then we'll see. We have an option called AccuPlacer. So students who are struggling with the PERT, they could go through a remediation process, and they could take the AccuPlacer 2 additional times. But then also, depending on the grade level, they want to start looking at the digital SAT or the ACT for university requirement. The SHT, let me go back to that screen. So for the math on the digital SAT, this college level will be a 480 on the math section of the digital SAT, which is what I believe they're only giving at this point. That would be considered college level. And then there was another question about, yes, it is accepted by all universities in Florida. And I should say public universities, because private schools generally will accept them, but they do have their own set of rules as well. And then I saw somebody was unmuted. I don't know if somebody wants to say something or if I'm answering the question in the chat. And then I see, okay, I have somebody with a hand raised, so give me 1 second. Okay, so it's a 480 on the math SAT. So if a student does, it's not mandatory to take the PERT to do dual enrollment, but they have to do some sort of placement testing. So if they've not done the PERT and they've done the SAT, the ACT, or the digital or the CLT, we will take those. But if they have not done any placement testing, they need to do the placement testing prior to enrolling. Okay, and then go ahead. You had your hand raised?
Yes. Quick question. So if my daughter hasn't taken any, because let's say that this year she's a 10th grader, but she wants to go ahead and actually start taking dual enrollment, next year. So the PERT test would be okay, and she just has to make sure that she scores between a 415 and a 122. Is that what I'm understanding? If she hasn't taken any other test?
So in order to qualify for dual enrollment, taking the PERT, at a minimum, they have to be college level reading and writing. So it'd be a 106 on the reading PERT, 103 on the writing PERT. That's considered college level, and then she could do dual enrollment at that point.
But then there's also the math, right? So there's the reading, the writing, and the math.
Right. So she has to at least take the math portion. But if she does not test in at this 114 on the math, she could still do other dual enrollment classes that do not require a math prerequisite. So an English class, a psychology class, a history class. And she could take up to 12 credit hours that don't require math while she's still working on that.
Okay. And can you go back to the previous slide real quick?
Yeah. Yes, I can. And this is being recorded too. So
Thank you.
I believe that this will be available somewhere. I'm not sure, but it'll be available for you to reference later as well. And then all of the stuff that I have in the presentation is on our website too. And if you need any help finding it, please feel free to reach out to me and I can help you too.
Laura, there was a question. What is the SAT score needed for the English portion?
For the English portion, and thank you, because I'm trying to keep up with the chat, but I have like 27 windows open and I am, it's just been a day. So for the digital SAT, it's a 490 on the verbal. So they've gone back to, they used to separate it on the old SAT to do a reading and a writing score, and now it's a verbal score again, which is the way they used to do it. So it's a 490 verbal to be considered college level on the digital SAT.
Okay, are there any additional questions for our presenter?
One final question, sorry. As far as Social Security number, with the threat of, all kinds of things going on with people stealing identity and all that, how safe is it for our kids' Social Security? Like, who would be handling that? Is that in a system where it is, is it private? how many people have access to it. That's really concerning for me as a parent.
Understandable, yeah. So we have a new system. It's called Slate, and that information is entered in there, and it's handled only by professionals at PHSC. It's not seen by anybody outside of PHSC. But we once that PHSC ID number is generated, that is what we use to identify the student, and we only use it for even on your transcript. It's not the full social security number. But it's how they track things at the university level too. So we just have to make sure that they match. So I'm not sure if that really answers your question. But we do have a secure system that is only accessible by people with credentialed logins to get into it. All right, I'm going to stop my share so I can send you the link in the page for the dynamic form. Right now, the only form that is available for students is for the summer, and it is on this page right here.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure that will be helpful. Are there any other questions for our presenter? There's a question if summer was free.
Summer, yeah. So dual enrollment there's no cost for dual enrollment. Registration for summer has not happened yet. It will start on April 28th for rising seniors. So there is still time to do summer enrollment. And it is everything with dual enrollment is free to families. You're welcome. And I put my email and phone number in the chat as well.
Okay, it is 5:52. Are there any additional questions before we end the call? All right, well, thank you so much. We appreciate you all attending. We hope you found this session helpful. Thank you to our presenter, Ms. Laura Raposa, and thank you so much.